Monica Simpson, the executive director of SisterSong, a nonprofit based right here in Atlanta, joining us now. Monica, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I want to get started with this. After the decision from Judge McBurney to make a ruling overturning the heartbeat bill here in Georgia, might I say for the second time, we noticed that SisterSong was one of the lead plaintiffs on the case. Can you explain your involvement and how SisterSong ended up as the lead here?
Absolutely. So SisterSong, we've been based in Atlanta, Georgia since our inception. We've been here since 1997. We are a national reproductive justice collective, but our work is deeply rooted in the South. And so we have been on the front lines of reproductive justice work here in Atlanta and across this region for many years at this point. And so as we saw these attacks start to mount up in the South, we were very much in alignment with all of our partners of making sure that we were using every tool in the toolbox to come against these attacks. And one of those is to think about what we need to do through the courts. And so as House Bill 481 moved its way through the state legislature in Georgia and we were fighting against it, we ended up having to move into a legal battle. And so as we were looking at who could really take the lead position on this case and what would it mean for an advocacy-based organization to take the lead, SisterSong really wanted to step into that, not just as a service provider, but as an organization that works with members all across this state and all across this nation, and moving this case on behalf of the members who would absolutely be affected and impacted by any decision that was made by the court here in Georgia. And we also thought it was important because we were able to really craft the language that was so important for community, right? Not just to lean in the legalese of this, but to really craft this case in a way that people could see themselves, they could understand how this was going to directly affect their lives, their families. And we thought that that was a really important move to make, not just on behalf of patients, but on behalf of just the general population of this state. And so we decided to take that on.
So let me ask you, just to give a little bit of background for those who are not familiar, we're talking about the heartbeat bill here in Georgia, abortion ban that takes effect after fetus viability, which is about 6 weeks. We know that the law took effect in 2022. Georgia actually passed this in 2019,
yes.
But that law took effect in 2022 after the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade. I want to ask you about this. So once again, second time this was overruled by Judge McBurney. We do know that there's now an appeal filed by the Attorney General's office, Chris Carr. But taking it back to when that the rule was overturned, outlawed by McBurney for the second time, what was that feeling? What was that initial reaction from you all at SisterSong? Was this expected?
It was not expected in some ways, right? Because we've been in this battle for the past couple of years. And so we've been, getting these disappointing rulings and these disappointing hearings. Like it was so hard for us to hear and so hard for our community to hear. And so when we saw this come down, we were absolutely excited to hear that we had a judge that was on our side, that understood how much of a burden this was on the lives of Georgians and moved in the right direction. But this also comes off of the deaths of 2 Black women in Georgia, right? So we have to, I think, contextualizing it, and that is important. So we lost Amber Nicole Thurman and Candy Miller here in Georgia, and their deaths were ruled as preventable. Their deaths were also directly connected to the impact of the Georgia abortion ban, right? And so when this ban went into effect, ProPublica did an amazing job at building out this research with the Maternal Mortality Review Board here to really understand the impact of this ban on Georgians. And these 2 stories were the first 2 stories and the first 2 people that we've been able to link who lost their lives because this ban was in place. Amber lost her life because she went to a doctor. The doctor, because of how this ban is written and the law that's connected to it, made her wait to get care, which put her life in danger and ultimately took her life. We had another Black woman that was scared to go because there's so much people are so unsure about what does it mean to really have a 6-week ban. Am I going to be criminalized? Am I going to be, surveilled? People get very, very scared. And so she decided to not even go to the doctor, and she ultimately lost her life. So after those stories were brought to the national news, which was incredibly important for us doing the work on the ground, we now see this judge moving in the way that he did. And so we definitely see these things as connected. But when that decision came down, we knew it was because of our organizing. We knew it was because we have lost lives. And we knew it was because these judges understand that this is not what Georgians want.
And I want to ask you about kind of the opposition, the people on the other side of the aisle. When this ruling did come down, we saw prominent Republicans like Governor Brian Kemp and others who have come out against this. What is your message to them who say the fetus here, although it might not be viable, at some point that fetus will grow into a baby and that baby has no voice here?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that we have people who will never understand what it means to carry a child and what it means to bring a child into this world, that they are the ones with the loudest voice and the most opposition to what folks who actually carry pregnancies to term, what they're asking for. We have all the data that proves, right, that women believe that they should be able to make their own decisions about their bodies. Right? And we now have a governor that says that we're overreacting, that says that, you know, they're trying to focus on the life of this fetus, but they're not paying attention to the lives of Georgians. That's the sad part of this. We live in a state where maternal mortality we're in a crisis in this state, right? We're in a crisis where over half of our counties don't have access to an OBGYN. Right? We're also living in a state where we have yet to expand Medicaid. We're living in a state where people are desperately trying to get access to the care that they need. We're living in a state that has not even given us a solid ground to stand on in terms of health care. And so now you're asking people to put themselves at risk again. It's unfair. And if you really are thinking about the life of anyone, you should be thinking about the lives of the Georgians who live in your state, who are asking you to provide care, not to put bans or to restrict access to what we need around care.
And speaking of that care, I want to ask you about the doctors and other medical professionals. We know from my reporting and from other reporting here in Georgia and other states where they have these bans that there's kind of a gray area for medical professionals where there's a little bit of confusion around the laws if you ask them. What are you hearing from doctors and medical professionals that those women with your organization are working with in terms of the heartbeat bill in Georgia?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of confusion, and people are really trying to err on the side of safety for some folks. Some folks are just like, we're going to make sure that we provide care to the fullest extent, right? But I think at the root of all of the conversations that we're hearing from those folks who are in the medical profession, they want clarity. They don't want to be unsure. They want to be able to provide care. They want to be able to step in the ways they know that they need to. And so what we are hoping is that as we continue to move through this fight, what they will hear is that what people want is clarity. What Georgians want is not less access, but more access. And I think that our medical professionals, that they are trying their best to stand in the gap in the ways that they can. And what I'm grateful for is that we have really, really, really strong medical professionals, especially our folks at the Feminist Women's Health Center, which is one of our biggest partners in this work. They have been leading in such a powerful way of saying that we know that this is unclear, but what we're going to stand on is making sure that we provide the best care for our patients, right? So I love to get those stories from the medical providers, because it is unfair for a person who is trained, who has taken an oath to provide the best care, to have to then be put in a position where they are unsure about what they can actually do. It's unfair.
I want to ask you just about the legal aspect and the reality that we could see.
Yeah.
Like I said at the beginning, this is the second time that Judge McBurney ruled on this. It's now been appealed. It is likely it could go back to the Supreme Court and be reversed. That scenario, I'm sure, is one that you all have thought of. What's your next move?
Our next move is to continue to organize, is continue to really try to understand the true impact of what this ban has done since it's been in place. We know that Amber and Candy are not the only ones, right? And we want to understand truly what women, what pregnant people have had to deal with in the wake of, trying to figure out what was going to happen with this ban. So we're going to organize, we're going to try our best to find more of those stories, to find people who are able and ready to stand up and say, this is what I've experienced. That is incredibly important to us. And we're going to continue to push this state to understand that health care, at the end of the day, and abortion access is health care. That health care in this state should be expanded, it should be accessible, it should be available to every single Georgian. So we're going to make sure that we move with that message. And we're also, because we can't forget the lives of Amber and Candy. And so we're gonna make sure that everything that we do is to ensure that their lives were not lost in vain. Their mother, Amber's mother, even said this publicly: "Please do not allow my daughter to be a statistic." And so our organizing efforts is to make sure that that is not the case for these folks that have lost their lives. So we're going to organize, we're going to find those stories, we're going to continue to build our collective power in the state, and we're going to move the message that you should, number one, trust Black women, trust us to make our own decisions about our bodies and our families and our futures, and we're going to ensure that we are putting everything in our power the best way that we can to make sure that we are moving our elected officials in the way that we need them to make sure that healthcare is accessible for all Georgians.
And if you could clarify SisterSong's stance on kind of the limit here as for how long you all are pushing for. Right now, with this new ruling, it's 22 weeks, up from 6 weeks.
Yes.
Some of those who are against these laws say, well, you know what, those who are for this, they want people to be able to have an abortion up to 9 months.
Yeah.
What is SisterSong's stance? What do you want to see?
We want to see that pregnant people who need to have an abortion, that they are able to work with their healthcare provider to make the best decision for themselves, depending on what is going on with them in their bodies. What we don't understand, because I'm not a doctor, right? I don't know what's happening with a person as they are carrying they're carrying to term, right? Many different things can happen. And so 6 weeks we know is absolutely too short for anyone, because a lot of people don't even know that they're pregnant at 6 weeks. So we know that that's very extreme, and that's pushing us closer and closer to the bans that we know that our opposition has really been trying to move across this country and federally. But what we do know is that these decisions should be made with the person who needs the care and their healthcare provider. I think that what's interesting is that we do hear these narratives of folks are wanting to go as far as they want to, and they just want to kill people. Like, these are crazy and scary and just unreal narratives in a lot of ways, right? And I think it's important for people to understand that there are many reasons as to why people need to have abortions. There are many reasons as to why those abortions need to happen at different points, right, along their time. And there are many different types of ways that people actually end pregnancies. And so I think that there's a lack of understanding, there's a lack of education to the broader public of what it means to actually have an abortion in this country. And until we are able to bridge that gap, we're going to continue to see these unreal narratives that keep trying to seep in. But for us at SisterSong, we want to make sure that the person who needs to get care, that they are working with a service provider that can provide the care that they need at the stage that makes sense for them, depending on what's happening with their body and their life.
So just to clarify, there is no necessary limit that you all are looking for. You want it to be open and let that decision be between the pregnant person and their doctor.
We do. We want it to be between the pregnant person and their doctor to make the best decision for themselves.
Okay. Yeah. If you could speak to the Attorney General today, right now, what's your message to him?
We need you to stop what the madness that's happening in Georgia, right? I think that Georgia has an opportunity to do something different. We do not have to be like these other states that are trying to move these bans and trying to be a part of this national conversation or this national attempt to really restrict and deny access to abortion in this country. We can actually listen to the people of Georgia who say that we want to make sure that we have access to all that we need around our healthcare needs. So that's what I'm asking them to do. We're asking them to listen to Georgians, to believe Georgians, to trust Georgians, right, around what we need for our health care. And let's stop this back and forth of letting people just be in this yo-yo of an experience, which is so unfair for folks. It's not fair at all. And we need to stop that. We can stop that. We can give people access to what they need to be able to make their best decisions. And we can do that in safe ways. And that's what we would love to see happen here.
Monica Simpson, the Executive Director of SisterSong, thank you so much for being in studio with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.